Hello, everyone, and we have returned after a long break. We disappeared, but we are back. And what else to talk about other than our 2024 Oscar predictions? Only like 11 months away. It's a popular thing now to give our super early predictions. I'm not sure if I don't think we did it this early last year. I think the earliest we did was like August. So this will be fun to look back at the end of next year to see how wrong we were, or how right. We'll see. And I'm joined by Anthony to do this is Best Picture in particular, like a preview all the movies.
Yes, I'm currently witnessing a Pandora sunset, I think that's what
Oh,
this background
nice.
is.
Yeah.
But yes,
No Avatar movie this year.
yes, no,
Tragic.
unfortunately we'll have to wait. But yes, I'm excited to talk about a new crop of movies. A lot of returning filmmakers, a lot of new talent. I think that it's going to be hopefully another interesting year. Of course, we're just coming off of a very popular year, I feel like, for the Academy Awards, as well from the telecast to the movies that were nominated. And we'll see if that sets a trend or if we'll change it up. I would love if, like, every year we have a different sort of identity to the movies that we're talking about. And we're going to go down the list and we might have that. So I'm very excited to be
Yes,
back, as
yes.
always, with you, Jack, and excited to be back with
Always
all
fun.
of our fans.
And we'll have, not related to this, but Emmy coverage coming soon as well. Lots of juicy TV stuff happening. But we have to get on the Oscar game before it's too late, before Cannes and all that stuff happens. This is being filmed before Cannes reveals their lineup, I think, this upcoming Thursday. I think we have a good idea of what will be there, but just a disclaimer. So this is Best Picture, like more of a, it's my predictions. We're going to go down my list. I have it ranked personally from 1 to 30. Um, just only 30 in terms of what I think will be nominated. But it's more of like a preview of all the potential contenders, and we'll give our thoughts on their chances and all that fun stuff. And number one, do you want to guess what I have at number one in Best Picture? Was what I think is going to win a year out.
Oh, what you think is going to win?
Yes. Not
I
the
will.
most likely to be nominated.
I feel like for you, based on what I've seen on your Twitter, I'm going to predict The Color Purple is at the top of
You
the
are right. Maybe my Twitter did spoil it. Yes. I have The Color Purple as my number one. As we've seen really like for the last decade plus, the Best Picture winners have been coming from directors who have never previously had a film nominated before. I think the only exception within like the last 15 or so years is Inarritu with what's it called? Birdman.
Birdman,
Yeah,
The
Birdman.
Unexpected Virtue of Ignorance.
Just Birdman. We'll just stick with Birdman. And I think when you look at those options, we'll touch on some other movies that I think would also fit that bill of being directed by someone who has previously not had a film in Best Picture before. But I think this one has the best shot. I think also when you look recently in terms of most likely the correlation between SAG ensemble and picture is lining up a little more lately with like Coda, Everything Everywhere, Parasite. It shows that the influence, and I mean SAG went 4 for 4 in the acting categories this year, so it shows SAG has a lot of sway, a lot of crossover. And I think when you look at all the contenders this year, if you're gonna guess who's gonna win SAG ensemble, I feel like looking at all these movies, Color Purple seems like the most SAG ensemble kind of winner to me. I think it will win SAG ensemble. I think it's the first film. I mean, the previous adaptation of this got a lot of nominations. I don't think it won any Oscars, so this could be like them making up for that. And I think it'll be very, very well done. It's directed by Blitz Bazawule. I'm sorry if I mispronounced the name.
We'll learn it
I
by December.
We'll learn it by then. Yeah, for sure. He directed some of Beyonce's music videos, which have some very distinct visual flair to them. It's also directed by, I forget his name, but he just not directed, shot by the cinematographer of John Wick 4, which is well shot. So I think this will also be very well shot. And I've seen he did an indie film previously before that I had to see for one of my classes, and it was very good. So I have faith that it'll be a good movie. It's got a stacked cast. I think we'll get plenty of acting noms. So yeah, that's why I have it at number one. What are your thoughts on The Color Purple?
A very
Those chances.
compelling case to be made with all those reasons. I've seen the musical that, of course, this is adapting. Of course, this
Yes.
was originally a book, and then a Steven Spielberg film, and then a musical. I saw the 2016 revivals actually closing performance. Or was it 2015?
Oh,
My friend had an extra ticket on the final show, and we saw Cynthia Erivo, who of course has gone on to greater heights since then. And it's a remarkable show. It's a very soulful show, and I think that if they translate it well, which we have every reason to believe, I think it could be very strong. As you say, SAG ensemble. I think this could be a sleeper box office hit throughout the Christmas holiday.
mhm.
I think this, the cast that they have brought on could really just explode with passion. Um, so I think that it does have a big chance. The question I think will come down to two fronts for this, which is what are Warner Brothers' priorities? They
That's
have
so tricky. They've got four big contenders this year. It's
exactly,
hard.
and this isn't HBO at the Emmys. They can't all win.
No,
So they're gonna have to pick up, a priority. And I think that this will most likely end up being that. I just think that
this
when
year
it
too.
comes, yeah, when it comes to their other contenders, I I just get the sense that they're going to understand that this is the most original film, as in the view of the Academy voter. We're going to talk about Barbie, and that of course setting Twitter and social media lit with the creativity of that
Ablaze,
movie.
yes.
But I do think that it's like it was for the Lego movie, a tough pill to swallow for Academy voters, clearly, because it didn't even get nominated for
Connected to
Best
a
Animated
brand.
Feature. Could see a potential where Barbie is that for them. So I do think Color Purple will help. I wonder, looking back, what made it be a film that just didn't connect enough to win. I do wonder if it was in that period where
Yeah, I
Steven
don't know.
Spielberg was still looked at as the populist filmmaker, and it wasn't until Schindler's List that he really was respected as a filmmaker instead of just the blockbuster king. I wonder if it fell prey to that. So this could be a chance that we've seen in the past where the retelling, the revitalization, is what kind of gives it that validity finally in the eyes of an awards body. You look at West Side Story on stage, didn't win Best Musical. It lost The Music Man. When it made the transition to film, it wins 10 Academy Awards, including Best Picture.
Yeah.
So I could see that, like, the first one didn't maybe get any Oscar gold, but this remake could. And I do think it helps that it's a musical as far as distinguishing it, giving it a proof of concept that is separate from the original. It is produced by Steven Spielberg, though, so it has his support.
Hmm.
I definitely think this could go all the way, especially because it's been more than 2 decades now since the
It's
last
been a
musical won
while.
Best Picture, which was
Yeah.
Chicago. So I think we might be hungry for another musical. Let's see. I mean, there's other contenders there. Wicked's on the horizon. I feel like we're maybe in this new, like, relaunch of the musical genre. I think that was
Yeah.
laid the groundwork by people like Spielberg with West Side Story, Lin-Manuel Miranda's work. I feel like we're kind of bringing back the studio musical, and Color Purple might be hitting at the right time to benefit from that.
I agree. Number two, I think probably the safest bet to be nominated would be Killers of the Flower Moon from one Martin Scorsese, the studio. I also emphasize, I think most important when predicting Best Picture personally is the studio, as we mentioned with Warner Brothers. You have to look at the studio behind it, how consistent they are in getting films into Best Picture with Warner Brothers is very consistent, which is why I thought Elvis was going to get in last year. Um, and how many the studio can actually get in there. Like it's been a long time since the studio has gotten more than or three or more in Best Picture, which I don't think Warner Brothers will. But this is Apple and Paramount behind Killers of the Flower Moon, Martin Scorsese, Leonardo DiCaprio, Robert De Niro, Jesse Plemons, Lily Gladstone. I don't know exactly what I know. It's about pretty much a group of not nice people taking advantage of a Native American reservation and their land, and I think their oil. I think there's murder.
When you
Interesting
say
title.
Martin Scorsese starring not nice people and murder, I'm like, well, that
This
doesn't
is it
narrow it down.
first. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, Scorsese hasn't really. The only recent film that he's like not hit with at the Academy is Silence. and this doesn't
So I
strike
think
me
that
as a
was
silence.
an accessibility issue. The movie had its wide release in like late
Was not well
January.
campaigned. Yeah,
Like Split, M. Night Shyamalan Split opened against Silence. That's how late that
yeah,
movie
and
was.
we saw what Apple did with in terms of money and campaigning with Coda, and this is their big contender this year. So they're going to throw everything they can at it. I think it's also Paramount is also helping like distribute and campaign for it. So I think it's mostly Apple, but
Maybe
Paramount will also be
internationally,
helping.
Paramount will be the
Yeah,
distribution. I
yeah.
think this movie has a better chance than The Irishman. I think a lot of people are going to compare those films' trajectories. But I think that the thing with The Irishman was that we were still in that emerging bubble of taking streaming films seriously. I mean, you got to remember that only 2 years before The Irishman, around then, Steven Spielberg was even questioning whether Netflix movies should even compete at the Oscars. So I do think that The Irishman had an uphill battle as far as being seen as a film that would be in that conversation. Nominations do not equal wins. I think that they're completely separate conversations. But I also think The Killers of the Flower Moon will benefit in that it doesn't have the VFX hindrance that The Irishman did. I do think that took a lot of people out of the movie. There was a detachment that was created with that VFX. And that this movie won't have that problem. So I think that Apple TV is a proven studio at this point. They know how to specifically cater the awards campaign for a streaming film. And I think that this could be, he's reteaming with Leo, with Robert De Niro. You got Jesse Plemons in there. I think this is a proven cast,
Brendan Fraser.
and it's a more balanced cast. I feel you also have Lily
Yeah,
Gladstone, who a lot of people are thinking could be a leading contender in Best Supporting Actress. You compare that to like Anna Paquin, which granted I understood what he was doing with Anna Paquin's role in The Irishman, but it didn't help. I think in getting female voters and voters
it was a very
just enjoy seeing
masculine
female
film.
characters. You weren't getting any more people on the Irishman side with that thematic choice. So I think this movie is a lot better designed for more mass consumption and awards consideration. So I wouldn't compare it to The Irishman, though I do agree. I think Trevor, our friend from Oscar Buzz, is always saying, don't pick the auteur, the
Yeah,
perceived auteur, the
I
dynamite
I agree with
ranked
him here.
smart filmmaker.
This is gonna get like 10 nominations. It probably won't win anything. It's it's gonna be
It
the
could win Lily
could win
Gladstone.
supporting actress, but we said the same thing with Fablemans last year, where it's like the big contender by the big director. Could win supporting actress. That didn't pan out.
I mean,
Um,
I think the question is, because Scorsese has been less honored than Spielberg. Spielberg has two Best Director
yeah,
Oscars. Scorsese only has one. So I think the question that it comes down to is, where does this rank among their other works? They're not. It's slightly unfair for Scorsese's and Spielberg's and Tarantino's, because they're not competing against the other 2023 films. They're competing against their own filmography. So when you look at the Fablemans, it's such a unique film in Spielberg's filmography, because it's so ambiguous about the family unit and the roles of the parents. And I think for a lot of people, as we've discussed many times last season, it was a little uncomfortable. And I think that hindered people from wanting to relive it, from watching it again. We both agreed that on second watch it improved. And
yes.
so that, I think, hurt Fablemans. Killers of the Flower Moon, we'll have to see what type of movie it is. If it ends up being that type of entertaining Scorsese movie that he made his name on in the late 80s, early 90s, then you maybe could see this movie kind of ride the waves. Now, that does not mean it will ride the waves to Best Picture, because, of course, Spielberg's kind of second tryout with this type of movie with Saving Private Ryan won him that second Best Director, but it didn't win Best Picture.
Yeah.
So it's always about a balancing act. But I do think, again, I would Kills the Flower Moon, I think, has the potential to not fall into the same pitfalls that Fablemans or Irishman did in their respective years, at least at this stage.
Maybe. I do think Scorsese's definitely got a better shot than it does in Picture. I also just think the runtime is just like it probably was with Irishman, is going to hurt it. It's nearly 4 hours long. I mean, come on now. That's definitely going to hurt it. Number three, a movie that should be 4 hours long, Dune Part Two. Warner Brothers, I think they're number two contender. I don't know the plot of this film. I don't want to know the plot of this film. Timothy Chalamet, Zendaya,
You know,
Rebecca
there is a book
Ferguson.
that has the plot of this movie.
That's why I don't want to know. It's out there. I don't want to know. I want to keep it special.
Well,
New additions: Austin Butler and Florence Pugh joining.
the question I have for this is this it? Or is there going to be a Dune Part
They
3?
need to clarify that like immediately. They need to say this is the final one if they want this to be a big awards contender, and then if it after award season you can go and make the third one. But for now, you need to say this is the final one. I think even if they say that there's going to be a third one, I think it'll still get in there. I mean, didn't all three Lord of the Rings films get in there? The second Avatar got in. I think it's our big tech contender, and as we see every year with the big tech contenders, they usually end up in picture. So yeah, I've got pretty, as you can see, I have it at number 3, pretty strong confidence in this movie getting in.
So here's the thing with Dune Part 2 is that, and we're going to argue this under the assumption that it is equal in quality to the first film.
It's Denis Villeneuve.
Yeah,
wouldn't
I don't have too many doubts, but this is the first time that he is doing a sequel to his own work. So, it's a completely different beast doing something that you've already done successfully. Again, we'll see what happens. But let's just assume that it is equal to the quality of the first film. The question is, what is the reason for giving it this attention again? When we look at sequels, Avatar: The Way of Water is a completely different movie from the first film, given that what we're honoring the second film for is the innovation in this water visual effects. When you look at the 5 nominations for Wakanda Forever, that had a very different vibe to it tonally, and also with the different cultures that it was depicting. Lord of the Rings didn't have that, but that's why you saw Two Towers get the least amount of nominations, because Fellowship, it was the first time, and then Return of the King, it was honoring the whole venture.
Still
but
got
Two
into picture,
Towers
though.
benefited. Definitely got into Best Picture. All 3 Lord of the Rings films did. But I just wonder, as far as wins, what
Visual
this
effects
means, because I do think it says a lot that Denis Villeneuve was not nominated for Best Director. I mean, this doesn't seem to be on the same level as Lord of the Rings in the eyes of the Academy. And if we already gave it 6 wins, Lord of the Fellowship of the Ring only won 4, and then I believe Two Towers won 2, and then Return of the King won 11. So,
yes.
I mean, are we really going to do more than Dune Part 1 if this is the final one? I mean, it's a big question. I think the thing that helped Lord of the Rings in the end was that it did have that Spielberg quality. It was a very emotional movie, and it was just incredibly cathartic in a way that we hadn't seen, I think, in a long time. We hadn't seen an epic like that. And I think that helped it when it came to giving it 11 Oscars and sweeping every category. I don't know if Dune has that. I mean, many filmmakers, I don't particularly find his movies to be too cold, but a lot of people do. And so the question is whether Dune has that emotional viability to get it that win, because I do think that's what helped Return of the King. That Fellowship won for the achievement of, like, you created this world, but then Return of the King had that emotional punch that made people want to vote for it again. So that's the only thing I think standing in Dune's way.
Yeah, I don't think it'll win picture, but I do think just based on the strength of its text, it will still get in. Speaking of cold filmmakers, not Denis Villeneuve, who has great emotion, someone who does not know how to handle emotion in the slightest.
That is a subjective opinion. I know where
Well,
you're
you
going.
don't know what I'm talking about.
Yes, I know you're talking about Mr. Christopher Nolan.
I'm talking about Oppenheimer, as it's my number 4, so that should be a good thing. I've seen some people doubt this film, Trevor, and not even have it in their top 10 for
That's
Best
just because
Picture.
he's the Barbie stan, and he has to. It's like you're rooting against the away team.
Yeah, when you look at, like I said, you look at the studios and you look at Universal, what are they going to prioritize this award season? It's either Oppenheimer or Fast X. So those are their 2 awards contenders this season. If you look at what they're intending to campaign, those are the 2 movies apparently.
And Universal is a smart player. I mean, they listen. I think they played 1917 as well as they could, and they just went up against a really strong, passionate player in Parasite. But they were really smart with that campaign, and I think they honestly, I don't think they could have done it better. It just so happened that Parasite was that just unstoppable force.
Yeah.
And they could do it again. I think this could end up being Christopher Nolan's kind of Schindler's List-esque moment, that it's the time that we take him seriously and we finally give him his credit, because I do think that he is a respected
Yeah.
perceived auteur. I don't like auteur theory, that's why I'm saying perceived auteur. But I think he is a respected figure, and I do think that this movie could have a lot of human gravitas, if Cillian Murphy's
If he
journey of
can
creating
sneak
this
some emotion
weapon.
into it,
Yeah.
yes. Yeah.
Stop it. He has
Just sneak
emotion. I
some
will
weird.
defend all the movies I've seen. There are moments of emotion.
Interstellar is the only one. I'm sorry.
Uh, Dark Knight Rises gets me every time. I'm sorry. Um, and Tenet and Dunkirk. So
Tenet.
anyway,
Okay.
maybe they work. He works for my taste. But anyway, I do think
Yes.
that journey of creating that weapon and having to witness that, I think helps. Florence Pugh, Emily Blunt could they a stronger female presence. We were just
We
talking
know
about
that he's
that
great
film.
writing women in his film.
Yeah.
Yes.
Elizabeth Debicki,
That
I
was
thought
sarcasm.
in Tenet, but we could that could help it if those roles
Hopefully.
are um given some weight. You have Robert Downey Jr. back in a more serious role, so the roles that kind of built his career in the
In
beginning.
direct
Um,
opposition to Oppenheimer in this film, his
yes.
character.
So, and you also have Matt Damon, I think, we're seeing the success of Air that could kind of get. So I think this movie could end up doing well if it has Dunkirk numbers at the box office, which again, I think it could because of its position as kind of like
Barbie
Dunkirk,
doesn't need to have it.
mid-July, could play through August. Um, yeah, I think that this film does have the potential to be one of our summer hits that sticks around. And then the question of can it just go all the way? It just has to be a movie that people can't stop talking about.
People have to feel something during it.
They have to feel something, and I
Will
think they
they?
could. And I definitely think the movie will have the scale that you need to
It'll get
move
tech
the
noms.
conversation.
It'll maybe it
Yeah.
has a chance. I think its best acting chances would be Cillian Murphy and Robert Downey Jr. I think are
Yeah,
probably
I
two
think
best acting
Downey in
shots.
supporting is a sneaker, because I think again,
If the role is there, yeah.
yeah. I mean, I wonder, is his loss as Chaplin seen as like I've
I don't
always
think so.
maybe in my household it was always a big deal, but I'm like, I think this is just my household that it was like
Yeah,
a big deal he didn't win
maybe
for
it is.
Chaplin, but he was
Yeah.
great in that movie. Tropic Thunder, his other nomination, also I think a very he makes a lot of bold choices, and to be honest, this is really the first time he's had a role like this since 2008, since Iron Man, and he
Yes, we
got
ignore the
busy with
judge.
the MCU. So I could see it as kind of like a return, welcome back to, non-genre acting.
Yeah.
So we'll
And who
see.
knows? It could win cinematography. It's got Hoyt von Hoytma shooting
Yeah.
it, who still hasn't won. Yeah. So it's got some
The
tech
next
potential.
weekends, I think.
He needs to win soon. Not for hopefully, no offense, Christopher Nolan, not for this, but for something soon.
We'll see. I mean, the trailers look great.
Greg
I'm looking
Fraser.
forward to this. I really am.
Yeah.
I'm a Nolan fan, so I hope this is manages to stick
Will you be
around.
seeing Oppenheimer or Barbie first?
I feel like Oppenheimer first, because Barbie you have to see at night. I don't want to see Barbie at a matinee, so I will go to like the 5 o'clock of
Barbie's all bright
Oppenheimer
and
and then the
fun.
8 of Barbie.
I will be seeing Barbie for. Oh, Siri was trying to silence me. Um, I'll be seeing Barbie first, and then I'll be buying a ticket for Barbie and seeing Oppenheimer. That's what I'll be doing that.
I'll balance you out. Maybe I'll buy 2 Barbie tickets and 1 Oppenheimer. We'll see.
Good, good. Next up, number 5, a movie that has already been seen by a lot of critics and pundits, a Sundance film that blew everyone away. It was only in person, so sadly I couldn't see it. I'm talking about Past Lives from director, I forget her name, Celine Song, starring Greta Lee, Tiu, and a few other actors in it. I think John Magaro's in it. But yeah, it's pretty much about two old childhood friends rekindling their friendship, maybe romance. It's all I really know about it. I haven't tried to look into too many details because I want to enjoy it when it comes out in May, which is an interesting choice. A24 has already said, put
I
it on the
mean,
record, that this is going to be their main push this year. Who knows? They could have spent all of their marketing money on Everything Everywhere, and they can't really push it that hard. So is it The Farewell, which also released in the summertime? got great reviews, but come Oscar season didn't do too well. But I think the fact that A24 has already said this is their big contender, and we already know it has an emotional impact on people, makes me lean that it's probably going to get in there. I don't think it'll win like lots of people do. I don't. It's most people's number one at this time of year. I don't think that'll happen. I don't think Everything Everywhere had a lot more going for it than this does. This is, I think, far too small and intimate to win Best Picture.
Everything Everywhere had the buzz of, have you seen this movie? I've seen nothing like it.
Yeah,
I don't know if Past Lives has that. I haven't seen it
I
yet.
don't
I'm
think
looking
so.
forward to it. But that will be the challenge that has to kind of overtake to get into this conversation. I wonder if this is like an Eternal Sunshine type of nomination. It gets a screenplay nom because they have, the more categories, because this is an original screenplay, I believe.
I believe so. Yeah.
So depending on the year, this year we were stacked in original and not in adapted. Sometimes it's the other way around. So it could benefit in maybe screenplay and then maybe get an acting. We'll see what happens. I do think what ended up happening with The Farewell is that A24 was waiting to bite the bullet on Uncut Gems. They really didn't know if that was going to play or not. It had a very late release date. And by the time they realized it wasn't going to click, for the Academy at least, then it was too late to really put The Farewell in the
They
position that
didn't pick
it
a
could have been to
specific
take
one.
that,
Yeah.
it could have been a number 10 movie, but if not, it could have been a number 9. So I do think that's what ended up happening with that movie. I don't think that's
Yeah.
necessarily going to happen again,
I don't
but
think so. No.
the size, I think, will hurt it because it's coming out in May, and this is going to be probably the biggest summer we've had since pre-pandemic as far as the
Yeah.
releases. And as we were talking about, there are a lot of contenders that are coming out of the blockbuster fair. So for an indie movie to kind of, that's the thing about Everything Everywhere. It came out at the end of March, beginning of April, and it was a big, it was a box office hit,
Big hit.
juggernaut for
Yeah.
its size. Will Past Lives have that? I maintain that, a bad box office doesn't necessarily hurt you all the time. It
No.
can, as we've seen, but it doesn't always hurt you. But good box office will always help you. And Past Lives will need that sort of per theater average that is really strong that then can build the word of mouth. We'll see what happens.
We shall. Number 6. This is a movie that I'm very excited to see. May December. From I believe Todd Haynes, the director of Carol, starring Natalie Portman, Julianne Moore. Pretty much Julianne Moore plays an older actress who is in a controversial relationship with a much younger actor played by Charles Melton. And apparently there's a movie being made about them, and Natalie Portman enters the sphere to study Julianne Moore because she will be portraying her in the film. I mean, that sounds like a very juicy situation, especially for the actors. We know the director can deliver some quality work. My main concern still hasn't been picked up by a studio. It has no distributor currently. So I mean, we've seen this happen with other films like I, Tonya. Didn't get a distributor until much later into the season and didn't get into picture, but it still got it was still a big contender overall. I think the
I think the
quality
same
will be
thing's
here
going to
for
happen, though.
this. You think for this one?
I think Carol was the biggest, sign, is because
Tragic.
that's a beautiful film, and it definitely sports a lot of Todd Haynes's gazes as a director, and it was a front runner for a long time, and then I think it misses PGA and it missed Best Picture, and that was a film with 6 nominations, including 2 for
I
acting.
feel like in a year of 10, though, it would have gotten in. I think so. I feel like
Potentially,
it
most
was.
likely, because there were, that was a year of 8. So I think that it most likely would have been that, and I don't know what would have been the 10th
I don't know.
nomination that
Inside Out.
year.
I don't know.
Inside Out, Force Awakens. I mean, honestly, it would have
Maybe.
been interesting if we had the 10 movies that year. More on Force Awakens when we get to another contender. I think you'll bring up.
Oh
Uh,
yes, I do think so. Yeah.
but yes, so I just worry about Todd Haynes and his vibe not fitting with the Academy. I love the guy, and I
I
love
think
that
this
he's
year's Tar.
fighting with Julianne Moore, because Julianne Moore's first leading role was with Todd Haynes in the
Yes.
1995 film Safe. If you have not seen it, do yourself a favor. It's a masterpiece. Um, But yeah, I just worry about that. I think this could be a film that plays well with the indie crowd and maybe get some acting, maybe get a screenplay. I don't know about picture overall. The best picture nominations need a sort of like gravity to them, and it needs to be like they can't be soft and sensitive. I feel when they're more sensitive films, it's something like Little Women that also has that kind of generational push to me. Um, so I just worry about what this movie, let's see what happens with it. I do think though it's a shame because in any other year this would be like the queer movie that people are pushing for in the queer
Yes.
community, but not this year because there's a bunch of other ones.
Yes. I think what my hope is, because there's an iconic awards film distributor that I don't have any of their films currently in my top 10 for picture, which would be Searchlight. Um, so I hope they pick it up, and then I will have a Searchlight film in my best picture predictions. But we
I think
shall
Searchlight
see.
could do great with this.
I think they would do very well with this. Yeah. Number 7. This movie does not have a title, but currently it is called the Untitled Bob Marley Biopic, starring Kingsley Ben-Adir as the iconic Bob Marley. I believe Lashana Lynch playing his wife. I forget her role in the film. I mean, it's a biopic about Bob Marley, an iconic musician. We saw this with Elvis last year. It's releasing, I think, limited in December and then full wide release in January. From the team who gave us King Richard, which got into Best Picture, got into some acting nominations. I see a very similar package with this one. Picture, probably some sound and editing because it's a biopic. Lashana Lynch could sneak into supporting actress just like Aunjanue Ellis did. I mean, he's playing Bob Marley. It's a movie about Bob Marley. I think it'll, just like Elvis, hit those right notes to get into Best Picture. And this will be Paramount's biggest push this year.
Yeah, I think we should bring up the fact that December release dates usually don't translate to a lot of Best Picture wins. I think we're out of the
Usually
win
not. No.
territory for now, but I think like
Yeah,
Shape
this
of
is
Water might have been the last December release to win Best Picture. Before that, you got to go back to like Million Dollar
to
Baby,
win. Yeah,
to win. So
I
I
don't
do
think this
think
is
that
winning.
I'm always worried about December releases for these smaller movies. Like
Is it
we
going to be
talked
small
about
though?
Elvis and Bohemian Rhapsody, but a December release date for a Black musician biopic, this could be another Whitney Houston. I want to dance with somebody. Um, and I do think
Maybe.
it seems to be that the Black musician biopic movies get tossed to the side a lot quicker,
Yeah,
whether it's Respect or Whitney Houston. And you could argue the quality of those movies, but I could argue the quality of Bohemian Rhapsody right back to you. So
and Elvis.
I worry about this. Elvis at least had the Baz Luhrmann effect of there's
It
something
had a flair to it.
interesting
Yes.
happening with the camera, and at least it's consistent.
Yeah.
So yeah, I worry about this movie. I also think that there could be other music movies. We already have The Color Purple, and Barbie will have some musical elements. So I wonder how many musical themed movies can get into Best Picture.
Yes. True. True. Maybe I'll latch onto this, just like I latched onto Elvis last year, just for the pure biopic
Also, Elvis
nature
and
of it.
Bohemian Rhapsody, the thing that helped those movies is that the music, like people want to go to IMAX screens and sing along with that
Bob
music.
Marley's got some iconic songs.
Yes, but it's not the type of like
It's not like a
arena
concert,
rock
like,
type of
yeah,
things. Again, it's a more intimate sound, it's a more soulful sound. It's not necessarily a type of music that gets your blood pumping. And I
yeah,
think it's that energy helps you when you're in Best Picture because it makes it harder to ignore you when you have that level of gravitas. So I wonder if the Bob Marley movie can have that. We'll see. Let's see a trailer for this one.
yes, I agree. I agree on that front. Number 8, I have my first contender from Amazon/United Artists. It is not Air. It is Saltburn from Emerald Fennell, director of Promising Young Woman, her sophomore feature film here, starring Barry Keoghan, Jacob Elordi, Rosamund Pike. I don't the plot details pretty under wraps. Apparently, Barry Keoghan plays like a college student who becomes like obsessed with Jacob Elordi's character. Is the vibe I'm getting. I think this will be Amazon's biggest contender. I think, as we saw with Promising Young Woman, it will be a quality film. It may be a little off-putting, is what I've heard from some of the test screenings that apparently happened. But so you could have said that from a test screening of Promising Young Woman as well. I'm not super confident about it, but I'm gonna have it in there at number 8.
I will disagree with you that I do think Air will play better. We've already seen it play well, and I think
Will it last?
Saltburn has the potential to be another Us. And I think what Saltburn has the potential of doing, what I see it doing, especially given my overall take on Emerald Fennell as a creator, having just seen Bad Cinderella on Broadway, I think that this will play very similarly to Us, where Jordan Peele, like Emerald Fennell, wins on their directorial debut. They win the screenplay category. They're cited as a creative visionary for the modern era, as I do think they both are. But their follow-up sophomore effort tends to, you know, isolate more people. It tends to be not as universally well loved. Some people will love it, but I don't think it's going to have overall crossover appeal in the same way that their first films did. And I also think it hurts when your directorial debut is so great, because again, like we were talking about with the Scorsese and Spielberg's, then this second movie is in direct competition with that first movie. And I think that will hurt her, despite having people like Barry Keoghan in the film, who is now an Academy Award nominated darling of the Academy. So we'll see what happens, but I definitely think that Air, given what I know about Emerald Fennell and her creative stylings, I think Air is going to play better to the overall Academy. And so I'm gonna, if we're going with an Amazon United Artists film, I'm gonna go Air over Saltburn. But I'm looking forward to both.
I could see it. I could see it. I'm taking some risks. You know, why not this far out take some risks?
Makes it more interesting.
My number 9 is interesting risk. I haven't seen anyone have this in their top 10 in Best Picture. I haven't seen anyone have it even like their top 30 for Best Picture. It's my Netflix contender. I don't think Maestro is getting nominated. I don't think Rustin is getting nominated, which are the 2 Netflix films most people have. I'm going with Nyad, which is a film from the directors. They're making their first narrative feature film debut. They directed Free Solo, which won Best Documentary. Very well directed documentary. It's pretty much about a woman played by Annette Bening, overdue for an Oscar, who has to like swim a bunch. I forget the exact, like she has to swim a super long distance, something like that. I forget. I looked up the cinematographer.
She in Avatar: The Way of Water.
Yeah, this is this year's Avatar: The Way of Water. Record. Yes, this is the Avatar: The Way of Water for this year. I think it's shot by, I forget his name. It's shot by a very well-known cinematographer. Yeah, I don't know. Netflix, if you looked this far out last year and what Netflix thought their main contenders were with Bardo, or I don't know what else they thought. That didn't pan out. I think Netflix is very bad, honestly, at picking what they think their main contender is going to be. And I think this, just like
I think they've, I mean, Roma, I think was their only contender that year. But 2019, I think they got it wrong. I think Marriage Story was by far the movie that could have gotten them screenplay, you know, could have gotten them one of the leading actor. Oh, yeah. So definitely agree with you with that. 2020, trying to remember.
Trial of Chicago 7.
It definitely was a Trial of Chicago 7. So whatever else
Mank, neither of them were big contenders. Yeah.
I mean, Mank did win 2 against Trial of Zero, and I think they could have pushed Amanda Seyfried a little bit more. So they definitely picked Trial though more so. So definitely wrong there. And then 2021, they had Power of the Dog, which that one I think they picked right of the.
They did pick right.
I think could have maybe gotten a little bit more. Anyway, I agree with you. Netflix needs to quote Ron Weasley. They really need to sort out their priorities.
They do, and I think, I don't know. I'm just going for it because no one else does it, and if it pans out, then I'm going to look like a genius.
I think Maestro's going to be The Whale. It's not going to get into picture. I
think so. Yeah,
but it's going to be makeup, and he's finally, please God, win
get into the acting categories. Yeah. But
I really don't care at this point what he wins for. Bradley Cooper needs to be an Academy Award winning actor.
He does. What would this be, like nomination 10 or 11 at this point?
Yeah, because he also produced Joker. So like he's gonna be freaking Brad Pitt before we know it. He's going to win an Oscar for producing before he wins for acting. When he should have
Yeah,
won in 2018. Don't get me started.
he should have. I agree. I agree. My number 10, I'm struggling here between two different movies. But like I just said with the last few picks, why not take some fun risks? And I think if there's going to be a summer blockbuster that gets into Best Picture, I have Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny as my number 10. Yeah, it makes sense to me. After the recent trailer came out, I was thinking about it. At this time of year last year, no one thought Top Gun Maverick was going to come close to Best Picture, but it came out in the summertime, made a
Well,
lot of
to be fair,
money.
nobody had seen Top Gun Maverick. I do think that
Some
there,
people at CinemaCon had seen it.
yeah, some people, but listen, Top Gun Maverick, I think, does not get in for Best Picture if it doesn't make the box office it does, which
No,
will be the first test for Dial of
I think
Destiny.
it'll make a lot of money.
Let's
But the
hope.
first, the
Great release
first
date.
Indiana Jones got a lot of nominations, including picture. It won multiple categories, and I think this could have that same nostalgic revival of a beloved franchise. It'll get plenty of tech noms. I think it could. I think it could happen. That's all I'm saying.
3 words: The Force Awakens, which got 5 nominations, including Best Film Editing, and didn't get into Best Picture. Now,
In a year of
you
10,
could argue James Mangold, J.J. Abrams. Sure, James Mangold is a more tested filmmaker.
his last two
In the
films
eyes
did
of the
get
Academy.
nominations. Yeah.
Yes. Because Logan got into screenplay. That was a surprise. Ford v Ferrari got into Best Picture. That was definitely one
That
of
was
the
the number
contenders at
9
the
that
bottom.
year.
It was definitely the number 9 movie.
Yeah.
But it still got in there. Listen, I love Indiana Jones so much. So I would love if this happened. Um, I wonder if this I don't think Top Gun Maverick is now something that's going to happen every year. It could end
No,
up being the case. We have to see the movie. If the movie is really good, then I think it
I
could
think it
work.
would be.
The thing that helps Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, in from my perspective, what I assume is that this is going to be the last Indiana Jones movie. And if it has that emotional arc, and if it ends up being the movie that sums up Harrison Ford's entire career, there could be a strong narrative there. And then if it makes the money it does over the July 4th weekend, Disney has been proven with certain blockbusters that they do have a strong arm. We saw with Black Panther, we
Last
saw
year,
with Wakanda Forever, even that didn't even get into Best
Avatar.
Picture, gets 5 nominations, and they managed to balance both Wakanda
They
Forever getting
did.
5 nominations and Avatar: The Way of Water getting into Best
They
Picture.
don't have
So
any other blockbusters this year to contend for picture, really.
yeah, I think the closest thing they would have is like Elemental. So they definitely, it could happen. I worry about the time travel. I worry about that.
Is there time
Um,
travel?
I believe so. This
Oh,
is
okay.
speculation, but I believe the Dial of Destiny is a time travel device because Mads
That
Mikkelsen
makes
is like,
sense.
we can now right the wrong of what Hitler failed to do. So I
Even
assume,
more nostalgia then.
yeah.
I
So
love
we'll
nostalgia.
see. The thing about Indiana Jones, in its essence, is that they're fun movies, but they're like serials. So again, the question is, does it have the emotional umph? I felt Force Awakens had that. So that is my issue with
But I
this.
feel
And
like in a year of 10, Force Awakens would have gotten in.
I agree with you. So that's why again, I feel like it's hovering. Um,
Yeah,
we'll
that's why
see
I have
what
it at 10.
happens.
It's right there.
Yeah. Um, so we'll see. I think if the movie ends up, this is my own personal opinion on what I think the movie could end up being about, which is that if they're trying to make the case that this is a character who's steeped in historical significance and legacy, and then here comes this time travel device that can rewrite what history is, if they're able to somehow parlay that into a conversation about what we're seeing across the country and worldwide, where people are trying to play with history and rewrite it to fit their personal narratives, if that ends up being what the movie's about, I think then you have a strong political argument, you have a strong emotional arc with Harrison Ford, and it could again have that big spectacle thing that we've seen with Top Gun Maverick, that we saw with Bohemian Rhapsody. It could tick a lot of boxes. I would love if it could happen. We'll see.
We
That's
shall.
definitely one of the ones that, like, I think like Past Lives, which cannot be more
Interesting
separate
comparison.
movies. Let's see how they play. Let's see the
Yeah.
response. It's premiering at Cannes. That could be good. It could be bad. Of course,
Crystal
Attack of the
Skull.
Clones was another Lucasfilm movie that premiered at Cannes.
Crystal Skull did too. Yeah.
So we'll see what happens. But I definitely think that it's one to keep an eye out as because I think that trailer, personally for me, and I know for you as well, it definitely I think caught a lot of people's eye and made people go from another Indiana Jones movie to another Indiana Jones movie.
It interested me, and I haven't seen any of them. So yeah, I'll have to get on that
Oh
before
my god!
before that one comes. I've seen all the Scream movies now, so I can
All
say I've
right, you're
done
getting
that.
there.
I'm
But you,
getting there slowly.
oh,
It'll be
I, lo-
fun.
I think like me and I know Thomas of Oscar Buzz, like we love Indiana Jones. I know that he loves them. And oh my God, that original trilogy is so good.
And there's that fourth one that I've heard about,
Yeah.
starring Tar herself. Tar in Indiana Jones. Yeah, and Harrison Ford, who knows? He could win an Emmy in September and keep Indiana Jones on the mind.
I would put I don't know, it's a funny question because we had the whole will Tom Cruise get in there or not? And I do think he was
He
probably
won't.
like in the 6 to 8 range
Yeah,
best actor.
best
And I
actor stacked
wonder
this
if
year.
Harrison Ford can do what Tom Cruise did. And the main question, because I asked that, because I personally didn't understand. I mean, I get it because Rocky was nominated and won Best Picture, but like why Sylvester Stallone was getting that trajectory when Harrison Ford wasn't for Han Solo for Force Awakens, like because they seemed like equal performances. Um,
He was
so
in
I
the better
wonder if
movie.
like maybe this can be his Sylvester Stallone moment, and I'm not saying a win, because we saw Angela Bassett, same thing, didn't end up winning.
Didn't
But
do the
I
thing.
we have to see the field. We have to see the field. If we get another like, best
I think
actor,
best
Best
actor
Actor
is
was very strong.
very
If we get
stacked.
another like 20 um 21 field, where we had Javier Bardem sneak in because the field wasn't really that strong. He was only kind of
Others.
beating Peter Dinklage. You know, maybe it could happen. I think Harrison Ford will be the biggest strong. He will be the strongest asset to that movie's campaign. Him and then James Mangold.
Yes, I agree. Number 11, which I almost put at my number 10, most people have it in there. The Holdovers from director Alexander Payne. Stars Paul Giamatti. I believe it's pretty much like on some sort of education campus. Everyone's leaving for like a holiday break, and it's about him as he stays behind. And the few, I think Divine Joy Randolph is also in it as like one of the cooks at the school, I think. It's about the few people who stay behind over break because they don't have anywhere to go. This screened at TIFF, I believe, last year, and there was not two audiences, two and people who would want to pick up the film to distribute, and they loved it. And there
The
was a
bidding
bidding
war.
war for it, so that shows good sign. It's come who won the bidding war. It was Focus Features, who usually most years gets a film into Best Picture. I mean, they had the best film in Best Picture last year, um, so we know they sometimes have good taste. So I think it very much could get in there. There is the whole Alexander Payne allegation aspect to it, which Rose McGowan has accused him of. I mean, you want to look into all the details. I'm not going to do that here, but please do some research on that. I don't know if that will come up at all. I think we had a similar situation with early predictions last year with David O. Russell in Amsterdam. It just happened to be that
Yeah,
film
but
was
Amsterdam
terrible,
just proved to
and
be a terrible movie.
it's because
For
but
the
I
people
think we
who
would have.
saw it, I did not, so I don't
I
want
didn't
to.
either. But I think if
But
it was like an incredible film and a crowd pleasing film that everyone loved, we would have really had a conversation like, is this going to happen? But we didn't have to have that conversation because it was a terrible film. But we could have to have it this year.
I don't. I always think it speaks woe for a movie's possibilities if they premiere one year at a festival and the studio gets it, but then they hold it.
But
And
they
they
had
don't
Tar.
push it that year. And I get it if Focus was already committed to Tar and they didn't want to cannibalize, but I don't think it's ever a good sign. And I also think Alexander Payne, he's a hit or a miss. He could have a
He
Nebraska.
is.
This could be a
Yeah.
downsizing. So yeah, I wouldn't
We'll
put too
see.
many, too many. I can't even finish the phrase. I was gonna say hats in this barrel. It's like that is not a phrase
Apples
at
in the
all.
basket. No, no. Indiana Jones was on the mind.
It
Um,
definitely was.
Number 12, I have a film that if I knew for sure it was releasing this year, it would absolutely be in my 10 for Best Picture. Just recently finished filming, so it's possible that it comes out this year. Blitz from director Steve McQueen, starring Saoirse Ronan, Harris Dickinson, a few
Your
other
twin.
people. No, no, who I had to be. We're not even going to get into that. And it
Please give us
takes
another character, Harris
no.
Dickinson, so
Please
you
wear
can dress up
clothes,
as.
Harris Dickinson. Where was I? It's pretty much during like bombing during one of the world wars. I think the second one. In London.
Just one of them.
One of them. There's bombings during both of them. And Saoirse Ronan and Harrison Dickinson are in that area. That's all I really know about the plot. Steve McQueen makes incredible films, a great director. Uh, I do. My main thing is that I mean it's a war. It's also a war movie, so they love that. Starring Saoirse Ronan, but it's Apple. It's an Apple film, and Apple's already got Killers of the Flower Moon and Napoleon for sure coming out this year. So I think they may want to save it for next year. I mean, it just finished shooting, so I mean, it could
Yeah.
theoretically come out in time, but I think they're going to save it for next year. But if they don't, I would have it.
Yeah. I think they'll save this. I think there's no reason. I mean, this is an epic film like Killers, like Napoleon. I mean, at least with Irishman and Marriage Story, those are very distinct movies. And then you had Two Popes and Dolomite. There's no reason to cannibalize to such a degree because all of these movies, it's like if Universal had 1917 and Ford v Ferrari. It's like, well, what's the freaking point?
Mm-hmm. I agree. Now I'm getting into a Searchlight patch in my predictions. I think there are two big contenders this year. The first one I have is Strangers, which is a film starring Paul Mescal, who was hot recently. Who else is it? What's his name? Dude who was in Batman versus Superman and was in a wheelchair.
Scoot McNairy?
Scoot McNairy. I think so.
I
No,
know
I
he's
don't
the
think he's
guy
that.
from
Never
Baywatch.
mind. I don't think it's him. There's someone in this movie. But it's pretty much about a writer who visits the house of like his old parents or something who have passed away. I don't know. You can all look up the synopsis. It sounds a little juicy. Sounds interesting. My main reason for having it above the other contender, which I think you all know what I am talking about at this point, would be Poor Things from Yorgos Lanthimos, is because I think Poor Things is here. I'm going to quickly give the stranger synopsis. A young couple. Nope, that's not the right film. But the actor I was thinking of was Andrew Scott, not Scoot McNairy. Andrew Scott, Claire Foy, Paul Mescal, and Jamie Bell are all in it. It tells the story of a screenwriter who, after an encounter with his neighbor, is pulled back to his childhood home where he discovers stuff about his parents. That sounds more traditionally Oscar fairy to me than Poor Things, which is from Yorgos Lanthimos, who has only had one of his films really be a success with the Oscars. I think he's a very distinct style, kind of like Wes Anderson, where I think he may only have one film that hits with him, and then the rest of them don't really. And I think this movie, which stars Emma Stone, Willem Dafoe, Mark Ruffalo, Rami Youssef, among others, I think it's going to be really weird. And I don't think it's going to be, I know people, whenever I bring up weirdness now, are like, everything everywhere was weird. Everything everywhere was a crowd pleaser. It made a lot of money. I think this is going to be a completely different kind of weird.
The thing that made it win was not, listen, I love that type of weird is now have that Oscar pedigree. Like we talked about it in our
kind of an exception to the rule rather than the rule, though.
But the reason that movie won was not its weirdness. It was the existential, emotionally gut-wrenching final 30 minutes. My aunt, who I love because I feel like she's like I can look to as like, what are the normal people thinking about this season in these movies? She said it was the weirdest, like completely batshit movie, but it had such a good ending. And that's what we were telling you. If they got to the ending, that's why it won. Don't think weird movies are now always going to win. They have to have that sort of just all-encompassing thing that Everything Everywhere had for them to overcome the weirdness. And the favorite arguably had that. And I would say the favorite was
favorite also had the time period biopic aspect to it, which I think they do
and
just love.
The follow was, I know she had Battle of the Sexes, but this was really the big follow-up for Emma Stone after her Oscar win.
Who's also in this.
So and this is arguably her first, I mean, discounting Cruella, this is kind of her first big role since The Favorite. So, and I think she has a better chance than the movie, to be honest.
I would agree. She's playing a woman who tries to kill herself and then apparently gets the mind of a 4-year old transplanted into her brain. So it's going to be weird. I think it'll be a great performance from her, but I think it's going to be a very weird plot. Apparently, Willem Dafoe is playing a Frankenstein kind of character. But I mean, it's Searchlight, and it's what most people consider to be Searchlight's biggest contender, that or The Strangers, which is why I need to have both of them in a decent spot here, just because it's Searchlight and they always get something in there. But I think they'll pick something else up, and it won't be either of these two that will get in there. But yeah, next up, I have La Chimera from Neon, which is my attempted guess at if there were a foreign film to be a contender this year, that it would be this one. Stars the icon Isabel Rossellini from Marcel Shouzon.
I was like, what credit are you going to go with first? And I was like, please do Marcel.
That's the only movie she's done.
That and Incredibles 2.
No. Yeah, it's Neon's biggest contender so far this year. I'm sure it's going to hit a lot of the festivals. It seems Cannes hasn't announced their lineup, but it seems perfect for a Cannes or Venice. It's pretty. I think it's set during the 1980s, and it's about a bunch of archaeologists, Josh O'Connor, Isabella Rossellini, who get caught up in illegal trafficking of some ancient items. So yeah, this is really just my attempted guess at if there were to be a foreign film, which there is every year. I guess this is the one that it could be. But yeah, that's really all on that. Next up, movie most people would have expected to be higher. I'm sorry, I want it to be higher. I have Barbie.
I don't create the list, people. This is Jack's
This is
choice.
my list. I
think this is revenge on Oscar Buzz and their placement of Barbie.
I'm just as excited. Yeah, well, yeah, their placement for Barbie was wild. Yeah, but
there, as if it's the both of them.
It is the both of them. They do have to agree on their list before.
I understand. I know.
Before this is just me forcing my list onto you.
Yeah, I didn't make. Listen, it's April. I'm waiting. I'm not making a list.
He's not insane like the rest of us.
Yeah. All right. It is too damn early for this.
I'm just insane. But yeah, Barbie. I think it'll be a commercial hit. I think it'll be a great film. I mean, test screenings through the roof. Every actor is saying it's like the best screenplay that they've read. Greta Gerwig, 2 of her past films have gotten into Best Picture. I just think that it's going to be weird. I think that there's still a large contingent of the Academy that is old white men who will, no matter how amazing the film is, even consider putting a film with the title Barbie connected to the Barbie brand into Best Picture. I think that's really going to hold it back. It'll win some tech categories. I think it'll win costume design. It'll probably win production design. I don't think it's going to be strong enough to get into picture. I'm sorry.
I posit you this. Joker. It's the movie that nobody can stop talking about, that it does things that really upsets people. You'll have every single person who thinks they have a film degree and a film Twitter profile tweeting about the movie nonstop. Some people will absolutely hate it. Some people will think it's the best movie they've ever seen. It will have the crafts, it will have the performances, and it will have the prestige. It has the prestige behind the camera because it has proven Oscar-nominated talents.
It does.
I think Barbie could be your Joker of this season, except it is the exact opposite demographic than Joker.
Yeah. And I think
could end up undoing Barbie. But I think that's what it has the potential to do.
I think there's more of the Joker demographic than there's the Barbie demographic within the Academy. I think they're progressing in terms of who they're adding, but I do still think if you're going to look at those two films, one I think would appeal much more to their taste than the other. And I don't think it's going to make $1 billion. I'm sorry. It's going to make a lot of money, but it's not going to make $1 billion.
No, it won't make $1 billion. I think it has to perform like better than Bridesmaids for it to be considered in this conversation.
Yeah.
And I do think that it will run into a problem as far as will it come down positive when all is said and done on the Barbie brand? That is the question we have yet to see. But I do think that it very well could, just because it could be that movie that nobody can stop talking about, and that helps you. It's what helped Joker,
yes.
So we'll see. This is definitely one of the bigger question marks. And I do wonder if Indiana Jones, Barbie, Oppenheimer, Past Lives. How many movies? I mean,
Dune.
are we really going to get for, because I know a lot of people,
Oh,
like
you're talking
a
about
lot of
summer.
people are picking a lot of those movies. Are we really going to have 3 to 4 summer releases make it into Best Picture? I mean, that would be
No,
crazy.
I only have two,
Yeah.
which is why I'm sorry, Barbie. I don't think it can happen. But you'll probably be like one of my top two favorite films of the year. So you'll get into my personal Best Picture lineup. Next up, I have The Bike Riders from 20th Century, directed by Jeff Nichols, starring Austin Butler, Tom Hardy, Jodie Comer. Follows a group of, it's like over decades, a group of bike riders, as the title tells you, and their tales and their journey. It could be a contender. I mean, Jeff Nichols hasn't really hit with the Academy much in his past films, so I don't know. That's why I'm not sure about this one. But if it's great, as with most of these movies that I don't have in Best Picture, if it's great and undeniable, it's got a shot. But personally, I don't think so.
Yeah, I think we're getting to the list of like, and I'm looking over the other contenders. I think now we're like, let's just see if anything is able to pop. But as far as the expected contenders, I think we've kind of run out.
For
So
most of them. Next up, I do have Maestro, which I think lots of people have in their top 10 for picture as Netflix's biggest contender. It could happen.
I
It
would
could
put that
happen.
higher,
So,
to be honest.
yeah, I have heard from some test screenings that are not very positive about the film. And I think, like you said, I mean, I think this would
But what
appeal more
is
to the
not
Academy still
like,
than The Whale.
but like,
But
what does not? Well, I guess on Netflix it's different because I feel like if you're not positive but you make money, you're fine. If you're not
mhm,
positive and you're on Netflix, what's the imprint you have? So I guess it would be worse if a Netflix movie didn't get positive reviews.
Ardo.
Because even their positive movies don't always get in, So
Yeah,
it's a good thing to keep in mind. But I
yeah.
also think that we're getting closer to the point where Netflix will have to release their movies in theaters.
Apparently,
And
according to the new rules that they might pass, they will have to.
so that could help Maestro, in
Or it
long
could be
term.
a bomb. I don't think it would do well at the box office, honestly.
We'll see.
Um, yeah, I mean, I think it'll get Bradley Cooper will get nominated. It'll get the makeup nomination. The rest, I am not very confident about currently, but they've got plenty of time to chop it up and make it better than it seems like it is currently. So we'll see. Number 18, another blockbuster. I don't know if this is 18. I've lost track of the number. Sorry. Um, Mission Impossible 7, Dead Reckoning.
That's not
This
happening. It's not
I'm just
happening.
throwing. We're getting into an area. I'm just throwing stuff out there. I mean, Tom Cruise in his afterglow from
You
Top
forgot
Gun
one part of
Maverick.
that title. Mission Impossible Dead
I'm
Reckoning
ignoring the
Part
part one. It's a
1.
terrible title, by the way.
I
Mission Impossible
understand
Dead
it's a terrible
Reckoning Part
title,
One.
but it's a Part 1 movie. When has a Part 1 movie ever been nominated? And don't give me The Godfather.
Dune.
Give me Dune. Those don't
Dune.
count. I'm talking about long-running series that get to the finale and then split it in two. It's like predicting Harry
Fast
Potter stuff
X.
that was Part 1 for Best Picture. It's not happening.
No, I don't think it is either. I'm just throwing it out there. Air, which seems like you would have much higher. I think
Yeah.
possibly. I don't think it's going to make a ton of money. I mean, it had a huge
I mean, it
budget.
already overperformed, so
It
I mean,
did. I just think it will be forgotten by the time of Oscar time. And I really don't think it's that. I don't think it's a good enough film. Sorry to the Air lovers. I think it's good. It's just not amazing enough to sustain that buzz all the way to
listen,
end of the
I didn't
season.
think King Richard was that good, but it managed
King
to
Richard released in
survive on the
November.
likability of its movie star and go all the way. And if
It's
you like that
November
sort of
though.
movie, this may be just up your alley. And I think all the people who supported King Richard could end up supporting this movie too. I do think that, listen, this was before our time, but there is a certain cachet to Ben Affleck and Matt Damon reuniting, and it's the first time that
I
Ben
just wish it
Affleck
was
is
for
directing
a more
Matt Damon.
interesting story. It's
But
about a
more
shoe.
interesting does not mean like that doesn't correlate necessarily to
No, I
recognizable
know. That's
story.
just my
It's a
that's my
recognizable story, and I think
personal.
that goes a long way as much as interesting will in our eyes.
Yes,
I haven't seen it yet. I'm
it's
looking forward
possible.
to it, but I definitely would put that higher for now. I mean,
Yeah,
it's a comedy, right? You would put it in Golden Globes at the comedy, right?
yeah. I think you could do that. I would put it in Golden Globes at the
So
comedy. Yeah.
it could benefit there. Critics' Choice, obviously. I mean, what it's got like 99% of Rotten Tomatoes, so you know,
Yeah, I don't think the critics are going to throw their weight behind this film, though.
we'll see.
I
We
don't think
shall
so.
see.
I mentioned earlier, Napoleon from Apple. You just can't, you don't know with Ridley Scott. I mean, if it's like incredible, which I hope it is, Last Duel was incredible. Didn't happen, sadly. Um, but who I think Apple will also have their priorities elsewhere. So I don't think so. But I mean, also Apple is fully releasing their films completely
Who's
theatrically before it
Napoleon
goes to
again?
streaming. He's Joaquin Phoenix.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah, no, I don't. I think people are just
I
gonna
don't
be
think
like,
so either.
okay, we'll just wait till Joker Folie à Deux.
Yeah.
Have fun.
And it won't make a ton of money, I think, at the box office, which will also not
I
help
will
it,
bet
just
you it
like it
makes
didn't
like
help Last
no
Duel.
money. This is gonna
It'll
make.
make more than the Last Duel, I'll tell you that, hopefully.
I'm not even so sure about that.
The last time Ben Affleck and Matt Damon reunited. Next up, Rustin.
That's true. That nobody cared about that time. But Ben
No, they
Affleck was a
didn't. They
supporting
forgot about
character, to
that.
be honest. And Last Duel was just completely. I mean, listen, I
Do you
didn't think
like
it was
that
a
movie?
particularly good movie,
I loved
but
it.
it was that campaign was botched. I think it
Oh,
also
it
hurt that
was
Ridley Scott had two movies, and he definitely picked a favorite, and that favorite ended up blowing up in his face.
House of Gucci. Yeah. Rustin, next up. I think this will purely be a Coleman to Bingo vehicle rather than an overall
Not if
contender.
he's gonna get attention for Color Purple, which could be the stronger
He
movie.
could be a double
So if
nominee.
he's going to get a supporting
But
nomination there,
doesn't he
which
play a
to be
very
honest, I hate this, but it seems to be that POC talent have a better chance in supporting than lead.
yes, this is true. We'll
Then
get
I
into
think
it in the acting
like
categories.
Rustin needs Coleman Domingo to get nominated for and really to be a front runner for that movie to play in any other category.
I
So
don't think it will.
I
I
worry
think
about it.
that's all it's that honestly, that's probably all Rustin is getting nomination wise. But I do wonder if he'll get into supporting for Color Purple. I think Corey Hawkins we'll get into the acting categories. He's not playing the most likable characters, I'll say. Um
That helps in supporting.
when you're that
Supporting
despicable, he's a
they like you. They
despicable
like you to be
character.
winking devils and supporting.
He's not winking, he's just the
Yeah,
devil.
but we'll see. It depends on his performance. He's the type of
He
character
could
that you
add some
like.
layers and
He
dimension to
could
it, yeah.
he could be as warm as his character on like Euphoria while still having that like dramatic heft, or he could be like chilling. So we'll see what type
I
of.
think it'll help him in Rustin, honestly, more. Just for his overall narrative. Next up,
That could
Asteroid
happen.
City. I just it's releasing in summer. I don't think it'll make a ton of money. It's Wes Anderson. He's only really hit with the Academy once. It did French Dispatch, which was incredible production design, didn't even get that nomination. So I don't think it's going to pan out for this one, personally.
Yeah. Oh, Moonrise Kingdom, was that not Best Picture nominated?
I don't think so.
Look it up. I feel like it
It might
was
have been.
in my head, but I think I'm just making that up.
I think his only Best Picture nominee is Grand Budapest, but I'm not completely confident about
I
that.
think you're right. But
But
just for posterity.
to make sure we're right in the long end, I mean, it could get a few tech nominations here, but I don't.
Listen, she's on a hot streak. Scarlett Johansson could end up helping this movie. Let's see how
What
big
was
her
her
role is.
last film before this? Black Widow.
Well, I'm just saying, like now it seems after the two nomination of Marriage Story and Jojo Rabbit, she hasn't made another movie in this sort of realm like Oscar contender since. She did Black Widow,
Yeah,
and then I think she took a break, deservedly so, after a decade of the MCU, and still managing to do like Lucy, Ghost in the Shell, and those two Oscar
yeah.
contenders we talked about from 2019. So that could help. I could it could be a scenario where like his Grand Budapest Hotel really didn't get any acting love because his ensembles are usually
Should
so
have,
big.
but yeah,
If Scarlett's a true lead in this movie, that could end up she could pull the movie with her, and then
maybe
the text, acting, screenplay, and then maybe picture and director. We'll see.
it's possible. Next up, I have Challengers, which is one of the films I'm most excited for. Luca Guadagnino's next film. Zendaya, Mike Faced, another Josh O'Connor film here. It's in the
Uh,
tennis world.
Moonrise was nominated for screenplay.
Uh, I don't think that'll happen for this one.
We'll see.
But yeah, Zendaya. There have been test screenings for this one apparently. Also positive. I don't really need to test screenings too much, but who knows? It's all I can grasp
Clearly
onto
you
right now.
do.
It's all I have to hold right now. But it's just distributed by MGM, so that immediately makes me think, probably not. They're not great at campaigning.
And Luca Guadagnino, like Todd Haynes, he's not a filmmaker that
This seems something
jive with
that
the
would
Academy palette.
appeal. It seems a little less. His last two films were very just stuff that wouldn't appeal to the Academy. This might have more of a chance, but I still don't
Do
think
you
so.
think this is his favorite? If we're going to use Yorgos as an
No, I
example.
think his favorite was Call Me by Your Name.
Well, fair. But as far as like, this is the time where his style is palatable for the Oscars.
Yeah, I think it's more palatable than his last two films. I still don't know if it'll. Well,
The
obviously, I don't
stars
think it'll get
definitely
there.
are. So maybe the stars can translate, you
Yes,
know.
yes, I agree.
But to
Next
be
up,
fair, Timothy and Mark Rylance, they were palatable stars. But I think Bones and All
and
had a
Taylor Russell. Yeah,
taste issue.
it was about cannibals. So yeah, I don't think it was ever going to happen.
Yeah.
Um, The Killer on Netflix, probably not going to happen, but I'm very excited for it. David Fincher, Michael Fassbender as a serial killer who gets
Netflix
empathy.
popcorn
Tilda
movies,
Swinton.
I don't think will ever make it in.
I don't think this is a popcorn movie. I wouldn't diss David Fincher like
It's
that.
a
I think
thriller.
it'll be a thriller. But I think it's still, if it's
It would be
incredible,
in the
Girl with the
suggested to
Dragon
watch
Tattoo.
next if you just finished watching Dahmer. So like that's,
Yeah, but
that would be my thing.
I think Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, Gone Girl, Fall Under, I think similar categories to this,
Gone
and
Girl
those
didn't
were
get into Best
both.
Picture.
No, I don't think it'll get into Best Picture, but I think it maybe could enter one or two categories, which is what the movies we're talking about right now really are. Um,
We're
Iron
gonna run
Claw.
out of movies. You're gonna be talking about Super Mario Brothers before we get to
I've
the
just
end of
got a
the
few more
show.
left. Just a few more left. Iron Claw from A24. It's about a wrestling family. I think it'll probably be too weird, but it'll probably hit some fests and people will probably like it, but it'll probably still be too weird. Jeremy Allen White, Zac Efron with some wacky hairdos. Yeah. Lee, no distributor yet for this one. It's Kate Winslet playing a model turned war photographer. So I would look for an actress. I wouldn't really look for it anywhere else. Dumb Money is one that I probably should have higher. I don't know why I have it this low. About that whole GameStop thing that happened where like the whole stock
Some
thing,
stock stuff,
stock stuff. From Craig Gillespie, director of some previous films that I've liked, starring Paul Dano. Big ensemble. I'm not going to run through the whole ensemble. I think Paul Dano's the lead though. It could strike me as something that could fill that Big Short niche of the Academy. So I think it's possible. It's from Sony. It's probably one of their bigger contenders. I still wouldn't have it in there though. Conclave, which is Edward Berger's next film with Ray Fiennes. I forget what it's about. I think it's about something to do with the popes. So they
will
love
the
that.
score of this movie have more than 3 notes to it?
Let's hope. I don't know. I'm probably not the same guy scoring it, but it's Edward Berger, so I have to include it, I guess.
I
Priscilla,
guess.
I guess. Priscilla from A24. It's about Priscilla Presley. I just think Sofia Coppola's work doesn't usually appeal to the Academy most of the time. Next Goal wins this movie.
Not since Lost in Translation.
No, not since then. And I don't think this one will happen either, especially after Elvis with last year. I think, yeah, no. Next Goal wins, which is a movie that doesn't exist apparently. So I don't think it will I don't think it will happen. And The Book of Clarence, which is Sony's other big contender from James Samuel, director of The Harder They Fall, which is a film I really enjoyed. Lakeith Stanfield, lots of other incredible people in it. It's a biblical epic, so I would look out for it potentially. And that's really it. That's everything. There we go. That's our big preview for all the Best Picture movies.
There's only one more, just because I'm looking at other potential lists.
Okay, what is it?
The Piano Lesson, which is in pre-production. Samuel L. Jackson, John David.
I don't think that's coming out in time, but yeah.
I would just caution, just because they just finished it on Broadway, and if it's really fresh, like what's the pre-production? They already know the roles, so like they could spit that one out real quick if they want.
Is there a studio connected to that already?
I'm not sure. I don't think so.
That would be a supporting actor contender for sure for Jackson.
But it already has like a full crew.
I mean,
they just didn't find somebody for Danielle Brooks's role from when she did it on Broadway. She might end up doing it, but I would maybe, I think they could push that one real quick. Like we saw, like The Post managed to like do what they did in a full year, because it wasn't really that taxing of a production. And when you have a play like this, I think it could play well. And we saw with Fences, August Wilson's work, could be really strong. And this could be like Samuel Jackson's like big chance. Maybe, maybe him and Harrison Ford, which is hilarious
Yeah,
because they were always the two actors that went back and forth with like who was
they
the highest
did.
grossing actor of all time. That'd be hilarious if they both had these like big contenders the same year.
Sure.
So just one to keep an eye out. Let's just put it this way. I have a higher faith in the piano lesson than Next Goal Wins.
If it comes out, yes, I would agree with that. And yeah, that's really it for movies that I've seen. If I missed something in what like the 40 films that we ran down there, please let me know. I would like to have all of the films on my radar. Comment your early 2024 Best Picture predictions down below. This is my ranked list. Anthony is not doing his yet. If you had to predict a winner right now, who would it be? Are you joining me on the color purple train?
God damn it. I don't know.
You don't have to do a full 10, just one. Just one.
I know, but that's worse. Because I'm gonna look back at this video and be like, you were wrong and you should have known. I
Well, we're
mean,
all wrong.
I really do think that
Color purple.
I'll go color purple. I'll agree.
Yay.
I think we can be a united front at this stage because I do
Yes,
think that
we were both right.
it's when you get to the end, I implore go if you can watch the Cynthia Erivo's final performance of the final like one of the final songs in the show called I'm Here. It is an electric moment. And if
Mhm.
they can recapture that, I think that it could be something very special.
Lots of
And
juicy acting
yeah.
moments. That's all I
So
say.
yeah, juicy acting. It could be just be this arrival of this new director. I think in the end, that probably has the best shot from what we talked about. But I mean, listen, so many things could happen. And I've seen
There
so
is a
many Broadway adaptations
yeah.
just flounder. So, we could be eating our words. I hope with that cast, I really hope we don't. But
Yeah.
I will say the color purple, despite not wanting to pick any movie right now.
Good.
We
There
still have
are
the Tonys and the Emmys. It's too early for this.
we had that's what we're moving on to after this, the Emmys and maybe the Tonys. I don't know how I would cover that personally.
I would love if
But
like I take the reign on the Tonys and you're just
you can
like,
take
all
the
right,
reign
well,
on the
this name
Tonys.
sounds cool, so I'll do that.
Yeah, I'll do that. But yeah, we'll be getting into Emmy stuff after this is our best picture video. We'll have an acting video, and then we'll get into maybe a director video, and then on to the Emmys. Or Emmys will probably happen somewhere in between those videos. Who knows? That's all the stuff coming up. Plenty of juicy stuff. And reviews for maybe Past Lives, which is an upcoming Oscar.
Indiana Jones.
Barbie, Oppenheimer, Indiana Jones. I'll have to see 4 other films before, but yeah.
Let us
Yeah.
know if you want us to do a rewatch. I'll rewatch the movies. Jack will watch it for the first
Watch it
time.
for
We
the
can do
first
an Indiana
time.
Jones episode.
We could. Let us know. That's pretty much everything. Where can they find you on the internet, Anthony?
You can find me on the internet, on Twitter, as it continues to be alive somehow. I love that we keep calling for the doomsday of
It's
Twitter
gonna
and it
live
never
forever.
comes. But you can find me there at Anthony_post. You can also find me on Instagram and Letterbox. And you can also find me sleeping until 2025, 2024, 2024. I'm losing what year we're in.
2024 Oscar predictions for the 2023 movie year.
I can't. I'm already in 2025. I'm already ready for Wicked. I'm already
Oh, Wicked. Okay. I don't
I'm
know if
already
that's an
ready for
Oscar
that
contender.
big budget Broadway adaptation starring a color. That's the thing, because Cynthia Erivo was in Color Purple. So in my mind, when you say Color Purple, for some reason I'm linking that with Wicked. I'm very tired.
I think one of them will be a better movie. But yeah. So thank you all for watching.
Did you
Like the
just
video.
mark Wicked? You don't get to. You don't get to
I
mark
did.
Wicked.
I did.
And
I'm
move
sorry.
on.
I'm sorry. Moving on. Sorry, Wicked. Yeah, so like the video, subscribe, comment, all that fun stuff, and we'll see you in the next one, which will not take a month to publish for the next one. I can promise you that much. We're back. We're back. So
Thank
see
you.
ya.
Thank you for watching.
Yes, thank you guys. Bye.